Hi, Hector. Thank you so much for joining us on Top of the Funnel.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you for having me here. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, so let's start from the beginning. And I'd love for you to outline your journey as a marketer for me. And you
Hmm.
have, I think, 15 plus years of experience. You've pretty much, I think, seen how digital has evolved over the years.
Yeah.
Talk us through your journey, how digital has evolved as part
Hmm.
of that, and eventually, what is your present day role as AVP marketing at Tata Capital?
Okay. India was digitizing at a mass scale. There was, websites were coming up as a stronger tool to sort of engage with the customer and keep him loyal to being the first point of contact also, and then thereafter. So websites were coming of age in that sense. Of course, albeit as in there were issues like slow internet speeds, and you would tech would kind of drop many times in a day. And when I say tech, I don't even mean the kind of tech that we have today, but basic stuff would keep dropping. So of course, it was a very very different world, and the challenges were also very different, right? As in, we started off with something wherein we used to struggle with, making JPEG mailers. HTML coding was experimented iteratively. The cost of video content was it was very expensive, and also the inordinate delays, right, with even that kind of simple content. So it was, I think it was a very different world, and now all these things are pretty much hygiene, and we've come a long way from those days. I think the at that point in time, digital was struggling with acceptance. People were resisting it, and I'm sure all of us are also little guilty of doing that at some point in time. Any change is going to ruffle you up a little bit, but I think people eventually, digital itself turned the tables around. From being something that people found difficult to accept, now your acceptance actually depends on, as a marketer, as a company, depends on how deep you are in the digital world, in the digital marketing world. So I, in my marketing role, I started off with a very big life insurance company, then went to a smaller digital first life insurance company, and then moved to a digital, totally digital health insurance company, and then now I'm at Tata Capital. So I think because these were companies who appreciated the role of digital. They may not. I'm not going to say were they always first in doing everything digital. Maybe not. But they were appreciative of the role, and therefore to that extent. I was very lucky to have a seamless process, from only doing brand, firstly BTL, and then brand work, and then now actually there is no barrier in that sense, right? Everything is seamless, everything is integrated. Even at agencies end, everything is integrated. There are very few companies and agencies now work in silos and verticals. So yeah, so that's from my perspective. This is how it has been, the journey of digital over the past many years.
And even though you touched upon it, you spoke
Yeah.
about how content has changed as well, and
Mm.
how the infrastructure, costs, etc.,
Yeah.
associated with
Mm.
content have changed.
Mm. Mm.
But can you give me some specific examples, or can you talk me through in slightly more detail about how you feel content has evolved, or the importance of content has evolved? And since you are an expert in the industry, can you comment on that?
Sure, sure. But to touch upon one point first, right? Content is valuable. When I say that, I don't mean that other things are not valuable in the marketing structure, but content is humongously valuable, and it comes to my mind, and it's a very personal opinion. In three, it has to be either educative, informative, or entertaining. And when I say entertaining, I mean any sort of emotion, whether it's it's emotional, or it's funny, but it basically is within these spheres. And see, at that point in time, the resources were very limited, right? who were the producers of content? If you see who are the producers of content, content was mainly led by media, and when I say media, I mean mainstream media, and or else you would gather your knowledge, information, etc. from friends, colleagues, training programs, things like that. Content was very very one on one, so to speak. Even though media is not one on one, but what I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure if Hector was receiving content for Hector, you know. So that was the constraint. I remember, of course, this is even pre working days, but I remember for a college project, on the entertainment industry, and believe me, we went to libraries. We went to even Ficky's library to sort of go through magazines and journals to dig out data. So, in that sense, see, internet existed, but not everything existed on internet. I think that was the state of it, and when that changed, and it was still a seller's market, right? And content was small, a very small part of the marketing structure. So because it was the seller's market, and only few producers or few people were producing content, it was again targeted from one to many, but not customized as such. And of course a lot of it existed, like I was saying, in the physical world as well. Now that changed, like I was saying earlier also, when websites became the first point of contact, right? And it changed not only for companies who were selling products and services, right? It was not only FMCG company who suddenly realized, oh, I have to do, I have to make a website and put my products on it. And I'm not even talking about e-commerce. E-commerce obviously happened much later. But this change may seem moderate from the outside, but it was not. Because media houses who were actually running this content generation from their end until now also got into that, and then the content producers, customers had anyway increased a lot, over a period of time. So I was obviously consumer. So if obviously Times of India, if it gives me five more things to read, and if I am a voracious reader, I'll read it. If I'm not, I will not read it. But it had started producing more content, but the customers actually increased manifold. It went from a few producers to you know many producers, and customers from few to manifold. And I think also another attribute is that uh, the tech world changed, right? I was gathering data, gathering my information, education, entertainment, everything from the physical world. Now I was doing that from handheld devices. Whether, I'm not even talking about smartphones, I'm saying handheld devices. And therefore, uh, over a period of time, when better devices came into play, income levels were rising, and therefore I think that change happened little by little on how content was also demanded by consumers. So earlier I was fine if I was, I had to, pick up a newspaper and read everything. Don't get me wrong, I'm saying today also newspapers have their own value. There is some value attached to them. But if, when I know that I can get something which is customized to my reading habits, for example, which is what today's apps do, right? So I think that mm, shift happened, and therefore content went from a little irregular in the marketing plan to to a regular marketing plan. And I think one another important point that again is very personal opinion of mine, but I think it's really true if you go back and check how it happened. I think SEO played a very, very large role in this. And when I say large role, I mean it catapulted what content marketing is today by a couple of years, because see, companies were forced to look at websites, right? And because they were looking at websites, they were forced to look at SEO in a more in a more close knit manner. And when that happened, they were also forced to look at other content, because of course there were some smart players who were always doing a little more than the rest of us. So and that sort of, I think, changed how marketers, brand managers, marketing heads, even agencies, even media houses, how they viewed content.
What are the what are certain pillars of marketing at Tata Capital? If we can try and get a little bit specific, and I'd love for you to talk about perhaps how is the team structured, and where does content marketing overall stand in this, in your marketing play?
Tata Capital obviously has evolved as most organizations have over the past couple of years, and we lay a lot of emphasis on data-driven decisions and um, providing digital journeys, digital buying journeys to our customers so that they can experience us on our website itself. And third, as we call it in the Tata Group, is customer obsession, and we try to lay emphasis on that as well, and marketing tries to contribute to that sphere. I think the role of brand, PR, marketing, digital marketing in this is crucial because see, we are the front end of the company, right? The company is really known by what we do, and not only, I don't mean only advertisements, but anything that the consumer experiences, reads, sees, is how he's going to perceive Tata Capital, and therefore I think brand PR has a very crucial role to play. Digital marketing as well, it's a very crucial role to play in this conversation. Um, what we do on content per se is like I was telling you earlier. It's across teams, and we have a digital marketing team who they get into SEO and content on the website, blogs, things like that. And then we have my team who manages social media. So therefore, there is a lot of content that is churned out for YouTube, for our Facebook channel, for Instagram, and I think that's how we and essentially what we try to do is. Uh, Content should be relevant, okay, and that's what we try and stay with as far as possible, and if it's relevant it will be engaging, and therefore I think that's really what the focus for Tata Capital would be as far as content marketing is concerned.
So, if I can ask, when it comes to social, I mean, social
Yeah,
itself is such an exhaustive platform, and within social, there are, so many other platforms that you have to cater to.
sure.
What do you think is, are there a few lessons you can share with us that have worked for you in terms of creating content for social?
So definitely one should look at platforms, okay, as a filtering mechanism. Though I am not of the opinion that one should, blindly or rather indiscriminately is the right word, indiscriminately create content separately for all four platforms, but five platforms, six platforms, whatever the company is engaging in. But I do think that the platform does matter a lot, because what the audience is doing on that platform is critical. What I'm doing on Twitter is different than what I'm doing on LinkedIn. What I'm doing on Facebook is different than what I'm doing on Instagram, to a certain extent. And primarily we engage only in these four platforms, and of course YouTube. So I will not be commenting on other platforms, but I'm saying yes, definitely one should look at different contents for different platforms. The strategy should be specific. Um, in fact, just borrowing from the earlier question, I think another shift that has happened, right, is that in mentality is, and tech has enabled that mentality, right, is that the producer of content today is not necessarily a big wig. The content has ceased to be a copyright of only intellectuals and domain experts and creative people. we lay a lot of emphasis, or rather, I personally feel we should lay a lot of emphasis on relevance, and that should be the cornerstone for any content marketing that happens. The customization, of course, absolutely is key, and I may be jumping the gun, but my first filter, okay, for any content marketing would be, what industry are you operating in? You know, are you operating in an industry which requires you to generate quantum of content vis-a-vis quality of content? So if I'm in tech, for example, I may have something new to say every day, and therefore meaninglessly applying that to any other industry will not make sense. I think it's a balance because see, financial industry has come from being a slow-paced, bureaucratic industry. To not all of us are fintechs. Okay, let's be honest about that. But I think to a great extent we moved on from where we were, and therefore I think a balance needs to be put in place where we are running after small gains. Of course, see, our SEO strategy, for example, it has to be a number game. One has to look at hundreds of pieces because you are driving a certain larger conversation. The three filters, I'm just going back to that. One is industry, okay, because it is important for you to filter that out, because you just can't blindly apply meaninglessly apply those rules that exist in one industry to the other. Second is getting the basics right. I think often people forget that, like, for example, uh, my YouTube channel will have, say, very bad content, okay, but I will still be running after just blindly creating new and new content, right? Which I think is a zero sum game in the long term. Okay, in the short term, it will give you benefits, obviously, because see, ultimately you are creating a piece of content, you're promoting it. So obviously, you will see some traction on it. But in the long term, it will probably, the extended, the potential that content marketing actually has to, influence the customer over a period of time, you will diminish that, because you are essentially, one thing, when a consumer, like you said, right, it can't be in isolation. The brand will drive those strategies. So if the brand is looking poor, I can't suddenly look cool on the brand and not look so cool in my content marketing, or vice versa. The brand is looking extremely old and dated and whatever it is, but my content marketing is talking all your stuff. It doesn't work like that. So, and I can't overemphasize as in more on relevance. That I think is absolutely critical for content marketing to work, because if it is relevant, I will read, view, engage. If it is not relevant, I will not do that, come what may.
On that note, are there some specific campaigns that you would like to talk about that you felt were successful,
Hmm.
and why? How would you define that success?
So, if I had to be really cutthroat and absolutely ruthless in my analysis, and if I wanted to understand if the campaign is successful, I should only check my engagement rate, and I should only check my interactions on that campaign. The rest of the things are important. I'm not saying they are not. I'm not saying they are futile, but they aren't my first filter to measure whether the campaign was successful or not. To give you an example of a recent campaign, we did something called a Shubharam Loans very recently. It was actually a brand campaign, but like we were discussing earlier, there is nothing like a pure play brand campaign anymore. So we did TV, we did one or two other conventional media, we did social, we did influencer marketing, we did email marketing, we did PR, we did BTL. So there was absolutely nothing, and the social piece obviously included content. Okay, so we absolutely didn't leave out anything, because I think the consumer is everywhere, right? And as conventional as the theory is, the multiplier effect still matters, right? Today also, if I see your ad in on television, and if I see your ad again on social, then if I read an article in the Logical Indian, I am going to be influenced, and and therefore I'm saying that, and like I said, all the matrices that I mentioned earlier, everything was tracked, absolutely everything. So traffic from social, traffic to website, leads. We've just got our brand scores, click throughs, video views, engagement rates. Everything was tracked to understand what is working better. It's not the question of me saying that, oh, if, for example, because we are talking specifically about content, if this time content did not work, I'll, give up on it. And I don't think that option exists anymore, content is integral to the marketing conversation now.
So I'm just curious actually,
Mm.
did the pandemic affect your approach to customer communication on social, etc.? And and if yes, I mean, I wonder if that helpful content, educational content, those ideas became even more deeply integrated into your everyday work, or did it actually have an impact?
Very much. See, I think most of the companies will give you the answer in affirmative because, of course, again, depends on the industry, but most companies will give you the answer in affirmative. At least companies who are using social on a regular basis, and social is an important pillar for their marketing efforts. So yes, very much it did change. Firstly, we kind of became more sensitive to what we were saying on social. So that was the first step that we did. Then we became more informative about what was going on, and not necessarily only about the pandemic, but also about how they can reach us. We were just doing, probably we were over communicating, but I don't think it was wrong. You know how they can reach us, how they can access our products. You know, is there an end-to-end buying journey available, and can we show them that instead of asking them to step out, because stepping out was anyway not possible in the beginning, and eventually when it did also, we were ourselves trying to curtail the number of people who actually feel, as in, who are forced to step out. That's the right word. Who are forced to step out, and therefore they would be putting themselves in some amount of risk, including our employees, right? Because our employees are also important to us. So I'm saying it did, I think, change how we viewed communication. Uh, but did it change it absolutely 180 degrees? I don't suppose so, because see, we were already on the path of doing all those things. It just sort of in the words of the chairman of Tata Capital, it just catapulted, the pandemic just catapulted that conversation on digital slash social media slash many other things that are in the virtual world to by say a couple of years. And I think that's the difference.
Would you like to throw some light on the formats that you've been experimenting with? So, audio, of course, video is the most popular format of the day. Audio is something that has really picked up. The pandemic has kind of forced people into these different formats.
Yes.
And of course, there's the usual text format as well. So, are there any formats that typically lend themselves better in this industry? You feel, or is it? And are there any formats that you personally feel very excited about experimenting with?
So we've experimented with. I'll begin with the last one first. We've experimented with influences a lot the past 2 years. Okay. Prior to that, also I think Tata Capital was dabbling in influencer marketing and driving content through them. But I suppose we've kind of taken it to the next level, and hopefully this year and the next we'll be able to like really up the game on that conversation. The reason is, for us to consider influences is very simple. I think it's still challenging. Okay, don't get me wrong. I think it's as challenging as maybe not, sorry, maybe not as challenging, but I think similar to, how we would go about choosing an ambassador. It does add another layer to the media uh, plan, if I may say so. And therefore, I think it has become critical. Also, another great part about it is that it's a human being interacting with you, even though it's virtual, but it's a human being, and a human being you admire or follow in some manner.
So we spoke about the past, the evolution. We spoke about in the present times with
Mm.
COVID, how
Mm.
things have changed. Now, my final question to you is going to be about the future. What do you think is the future of content
Oh
marketing?
well, like I was saying, I think it's got a very bright future. It's only going to go, as in its graph is going to be phenomenal, according to me. Uh, though one thing that we need to bear in mind is often marketers become very impatient with content marketing. You know, they expect that the performance of content marketing should be equated to the performance of your performance marketing campaigns or your lead generation campaigns, which is, to my mind, a very unfair comparison. You know, because see, content marketing does both things. In the short run, if I may say so, it um, adds meaningful conversations to business, which basically I'm talking about, blogs, videos, etc., which you have the consumer come on your website and backlink it to, or back connect it to some product, which is a very tactical conversation. But in the long run, it earns you loyalty. While it is a fading facet, but it does earn you loyalty, because if you are adding value to what the consumer is looking at, the consumer is going to look at you again and again. But if you are not doing that, then I'm sorry. So I'm saying one can't be impatient with content marketing. I think the future is a rise in video content, like I was saying, rise in influencer marketing, and rise in probably many innovations and many different formats and things that we are not aware of at this point in time. And it can only go ahead unless the world gives us some reset, which basically makes us go back to the analog world. Then it's a different thing. But I think in the digital world, it's only going to improve and only going to prosper. And marketers will be marketers who are today not considering content as an important piece will be forced to do that.
I think that's wonderfully summarized. I do believe now without content, one it's very hard to imagine marketing in general. Uh,
Absolutely.
so on that amazing note, very positive note for people like me at least. I'd like to say thank you, Hector, for taking out time to do this and having this great conversation. A lot of bits and pieces here and there, which are going to be a little gems of wisdom that we will keep sharing
I
on our.
hope I hope it will be as engaging for the viewer as well.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure of that. Thank you so much, and
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.